Hi, my name's Kevin O'Kennedy. My father, Daniel Patrick O'Kennedy, was a mover and shaker in Detroit. He founded all things Irish. He was involved with the Detroit Fest, bringing the dancers in. He was active with the GAA, the Detroit Pouring Peers Club, and he would bring in musicians to teach us the tin whistle. He'd bring in the likes of Noel Rice and Jim Thornton, fly them in to teach us the tin whistle while the Irish dance classes were going on at the Gaelic League in Detroit, which was the hub of everything Irish in Detroit. I'm one of 5 kids, Porrig, Maura, Kevin, Eileen, and Sheila. I'm right in the middle there, and of course we were all put in the dancing. I more than them were put into the music, although we were taught some accordion. The tin whistle was my forte, and I still play it to this day at Clancy's in Oak Lawn. Some of the earliest memories, we'd go to Kilrush in County Clare in Ireland, and my father would drag us kids. Now we just wanted to go for the fish and chips, but he'd go by Kelly's Pub. Now I don't know if he would meet her at Kelly's Pub or she lived next door to Kelly's Pub, but there was a famous concertina player called Mrs. Crotty, and we'd be sitting there and we're just like 5 kids, holding hands, and he's talking to this lady, and of course we learned later that she was a fantastic Elizabeth Crotty. Elizabeth Crotty was the namesake of the Crotty Doran Comhaltas branch. One of the biggest events of the year was the Comhaltas concert. We would be selling tickets and we'd be planning this massive concert, the Concert of Champions. They'd bring in some of the best musicians from Ireland. And of course, my dad being the chairman of it, we had the president, Laras Muraku, staying with us. And he was fantastic, him and his beautiful wife. They would buy us candy, so that's why we were happiest about it. But the Comhaltas, we were selling the tickets and promoting the Irish music, and all the houses opened up to put up the musicians. There was no hotel rooms, they were all put up by families, and it was just a fantastic scene. The music, we had we had Mick Gavin there, we had Al Purcell's there, we had some fantastic musicians coming in from all over the country, playing for the Detroit Fest, and they were all great friends of my father's. And Liz Carroll, I believe her first gig was at the Detroit Fest, and we just was teeming with Irish music. I try to keep that culture going today. We have 2 pubs in Oak Lawn and Chicago, both named Clancy's, and we have the likes of John Williams and many other great musicians play there on Friday nights and other nights during the week. So if you think of anything Irish in Detroit, my dad had a thumbprint on it somewhere.
The Irish Musicians Association has the proud distinction of having been the very first branch of Comhaltas Cultúrtha Éireann in North America. The organization was founded on Sunday, August 19th, 1956, at an inaugural convention organized by then-chairman Frank Thornton. The convention was held in the Walnut Room of the Midland Hotel on Adams Street in downtown Chicago, with musicians from Chicago, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Detroit, Cleveland, Houston, and Kansas City present to witness music history in the making. They established the aims of the association to promote, teach, and keep alive the traditional music of Ireland. The list of founding members reads like a who's who of Irish music and included the likes of Tommy Caulfield, James Donnelly, John Doyle, Bob Flatley, Patrick Garvey, Martin J. Hardiman, Kevin Henry, Dan Lynch, John McGreevy, Eleanor Kane Neary, James Neary Jr., Louis E. Quinn, Edward Reevy, Pat Roach, and Frank J. Thornton. They established state representatives around the country, including Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Cleveland, Texas, Missouri, and Michigan. In the early years, the Irish musicians' activities included playing at local céilís, weddings and receptions, faciana, benefit dances, and house parties. Their early conventions set the stage for North American Comhaltas conferences and conventions that would bring together musicians from all over the U.S. and Canada. They held these early annual conventions in various cities throughout the country in the late 1950s through the late 1960s, including New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Providence, Cleveland, and Chicago. Well ahead of their time, the Irish Musicians Association organized a tour of Ireland by Chicago-born musicians, dancers, and singers back in 1959, which demonstrated the evolution of Irish traditional music they had championed here in North America. This was the very first American traditional music group to ever tour Ireland. They raised travel funds as a grassroots effort, organizing 2 concerts in Chicago that featured fabulous entertainment by legendary players with a variety program that included music, song, and dance, and kept the audience in stitches with classic Irish humor. The voyage to Ireland would always be a part of the stories told about the adventure. The weather was dreadful over the North Atlantic, the plane developed engine trouble, and was forced to land at Gander, Newfoundland. Soon after departure, the trouble reoccurred and the plane had to return to Gander again. Frank Thornton remembered that all on board the plane were praying the rosary as the plane bounced from one air pocket to another. The Chicago Ceilidh Band was the featured act of the tour group and featured John Lavelle, Pat Gillihooley, Eleanor Kane Neary, John McGreevy, Mary Donnelly McDonough, Eileen Fitzgerald, and a young Jimmy Thornton, along with singers Beatrice Garrity and Margie Friel. While in Ireland, Mike Malone joined the group and played piano throughout the tour. Chicago Gaelic concert dancers selected for the tour included Mary Jane Lucid, Pat Gillihooley doing double duty as a drummer and a dancer, Mary Campbell, Margie Bartichel, Dennis Dennehy, Joan O'Connor, Maureen Daly, John Wolfe, and Michelle Johnston. On the tour, the group played 23 concerts throughout Ireland in July 1959, with large audiences at every concert. The favorable reports in local press throughout Ireland sparked the Comhaltas Cultúrtha Éireann tours to North America. The local Irish newspapers gave great reviews of the tour group. Doherty's Hall, Drushambo, was packed for the stage presentation for the Chicago Gaelic Concert Group. In a very nicely arranged and balanced program, each of the artists distinguished him or herself in their own particular sphere of entertainment, while the various exhibitions of Irish traditional figure dancing made a deep impression on the large audience. The vociferous applause and general manner in which the audience received the show was, in itself, an indication and striking proof of the high standard of the presentation. Enduring evidence of the legacy of the IMA is the vinyl recording that they produced in November 1981. That LP record remains a classic and is still found proudly on display in the homes of many members and their progeny. The Irish Musicians Association enjoys a long-established heritage in Chicago, adhering to the principles of the founding members to promote, teach, and keep alive the traditional music of Ireland. In doing that, they have actively supported Irish dance and music throughout Chicago for more than 60 years. They continue to be well represented at traditional music sessions all around Chicagoland. They fully deserve the support of the Irish community of Chicago.
Gee Vacharja, agus Falchi Gichi Cleve Riley. I'm Dan Curtin, the chair of the Riley branch of Comhaltas, and we serve the greater Cincinnati, Ohio area, and that is to say, southwestern Ohio, southeastern Indiana, and northern Kentucky, which is where I'm standing at this very moment. The Riley branch grew out of the Riley School of Irish Music. In 1996, Susan Cross, with the help of a few other people who knew a little bit about Irish music founded the Riley School of Irish Music. And from a very small seed, a fairly good-sized tree has grown. After a few years, Susan convinced us that we should go to the Midwest Fleadh. We weren't quite sure we were ready for competition, but off we went and tried different things. So we showed up in Detroit, and it was amazing to us. Here's all these people who are just as interested in Irish music as we are, but much more knowledgeable, all sharing their knowledge, willing to talk to us. We wandered around the day of the Fleadh, listening to kids practicing in every corner, trying out different things in different rooms. And the excitement built until the evening when we went to the band competition, and we put together a Ceilidh band. That was a little bit of an unusual Ceilidh band because we had not really played together for long, and we had never played for dancers, if you can imagine. But fortunately, we didn't know any better. So we just went in, and when our name was called, up we went onto the stage, lined up and sat down, and looked out at the judges. To be honest, you can't even see the crowd when you're in a competition. You look right at the judges. And there was Al Purcell, piper extraordinaire from Detroit, Gerard O'Halloran, probably one of the most knowledgeable people about Irish music in the world, and a couple others. And my first thought was, we should be over there listening to you play over here. But then the drummer went tick, tick, and off we went. We played our set with great enthusiasm, and a little bit of raggedness, I suspect, and marched off the stage, floating on air. The judges were great. They went easy on us and praised our enthusiasm and gave us some tips for how to get better. And I think we have. Over the years, our Ceilidh band has played now for a lot more dances. We have a Ceilidh almost every year here. And the Ceilidh band plays several times a year for the local contra dance community. Much to their appreciation, because they don't usually have that large a group and they don't hear the real traditional Irish music that often. Well, we got back to Cincinnati. I must admit, on Sunday morning, we were a little bit late getting up for Mass, but we made it to the late Mass before we drove home. Got back to Cincinnati and got talking about Comhaltas and what it does, and the Fleadh was the biggest thing for us, but we were really excited, and we decided that we ought to form our own branch down here. And with the help of the other branches around the Midwest, we did just that. Small group, but a very active group, and we've remained so ever since. We went back to Detroit the next year as full-fledged members, and I think the year after that. And then the year after that, we got a phone call in October. Something had gone wrong with whoever was supposed to run the Fleadh the next spring. And they said, would you do it? Well, not knowing any better, we said, sure, we'll be glad to. And after, usually you get a whole year to get ready for the Fleadh, and we had about 7 months, but with a lot of help from a lot of people around here and a lot of help from other groups in the Midwest, somehow we made it happen. And we did it again the next year. Well, that proved to be a real good thing for our branch. A lot of our young kids, our under 12 band, for example, really had never been to a Fleadh before, and their parents were a little reluctant to travel that far for just a music competition. But after they saw what it was like and how enthusiastic the kids got about playing with each other, meeting everybody from around the Midwest, my son still is Facebook friends with kids that he met that year. We got a lot more participation. Another big thing was the Ceilidh band, or the band competition, I should say, Ceilidh band and Group of Cheoil. We had a lot of people from the community come, most of whom had really never heard traditional Irish music before. So not only did we gain some enthusiasm among our players, we gained some fans, some of whom have remained members of Comhaltas ever since, even though they don't play a lick, but they love the music. Well, we got back from that and kept building on it. Some of us went to some of the conventions, the North American conventions, run in Canada and run in the United States. Again, great camaraderie among the musicians. We learned so much about the music by just sitting and listening and talking to the people who play and playing with them, meeting people from Ireland, meeting people whose recordings we had listened to. And the enthusiasm really built over the years. We benefited very much from our contacts in Comhaltas, in the Midwest, but also in Ireland. Although most especially that was when we ran the Fleadh. So a little bit later, in 2015 and 16, we ran the Fleadh again, and again saw some of the benefits of that, boosting our enthusiasm, boosting our membership, and just having fun with our friends from around the Midwest. So things were going swimmingly until just before St. Patrick's Day on 2020, and I don't think this will be any surprise to anyone, but all of a sudden, just as we were even doing interviews about what we were going to be doing over the St. Patrick's Day holiday, and word came out that everything was closing down. All our venues where we had sessions, the venue where we were about to be part of an international festival, all closed. And we decided that the Riley School would close for that quarter. Luckily, we only had the spring quarter left to go, and the same thing for the Riley branch. So over the summer, we put things together, and in the fall, we managed to get back up and going, both the branch and the school, but virtually, doing it over Zoom. And we went through it with great trepidation, but with help from a large number of people, it worked out just fine. By the time Christmas came around, we were starting to get activity locally, but all on Zoom. There were sessions being held out in California that people joined in. And although the Fleadh had all been canceled, Murphy Roach put together an Comhaltas Cheoil that we were able to participate in virtually, and that was a tremendous success that spring. Looks like we're going to do it again. When we got the school going, our first quarter was just getting it going. The second quarter, we decided that we needed more activity, and so the branch and the school, working together, started doing workshops and concerts all on Zoom. And so we hope to be coming out of this strange time in our history actually stronger. We now have people from all over the country who come to our concerts, and contacts all over the country. So we are hoping that as things begin to open up, in fact, next week we're going to have our first in-person session for those fully vaccinated, and we hope that this will be the start, or more importantly, or more precisely, the restart of the success that we've had in the past, and that will continue to grow strong in the future. So soon, I hope we'll either see you somewhere, or maybe if you ever get a chance to come down to Cincinnati, give us a buzz, and we'll set up a session and we'll get together.